Audiophiles, we know you're all crazy about DACs. But what about the people who record the music you use to listen to your system? I mean sound engineers, or recording engineers as a subset. They're crazy about microphones. Really, a sound engineer, or the studio they work in, can't have too many microphones. Microphones of different types, brands, models, mics that are good for a particular sound source, mics that are good for pretty much anything. And where it is said, note, I'm not necessarily saying this, that DACs pretty much all sound the same above a certain point of price and quality. Microphones sound very different to each other, even two identical models that have aged differently. So today, I'm hoping that my hi-fi enthusiast and audiophile viewers will spend a few minutes with me looking at and listening to a long-time studio favourite microphone. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to sing.
Find me under the lights, diamonds under my eyes.
I'm not going to play any of my instruments either, because I'm a bit out of practice. But if there's a clamour in the comments for that, maybe I will in a future video. You know what's coming. Let's have an unboxing. So here we have the Beyerdynamic M201, a classic from 1973 and still in the catalogue now. Yes, I said Beyerdynamic, with apologies to the spirit of company founder Eugen Beyer. Come on, there are lots of words we pronounce differently in English or American English than their original local pronunciation. And I've heard Beyer and never Beyer professionally going back to the 1980s. I'm going to stick with it. Come on, commenters, don't give me a headache or I'm going to need an aspirin. So today, it's speech. Oddly enough, speech is important. So important that my AI friend Grok estimates that up to around half of all microphones professionally are used for speech, the other half for all other purposes. If you use YouTube much, come on, you're on it all day. You'll find a fair number of videos that compare microphones, often on vocals, sometimes on instruments. I've made a few myself in Abbey Road Studios 2 and 3, back in the day before everyone else caught on. Sign up for my audio masterclass, music production and sound engineering course, link in the description. Special YouTube pricing if you're quick, and you can hear and see them for yourself. However, I have to tell you that these comparisons are all wrong. Well, not entirely, but you have to consider what you're hearing. You could, well, I could, right now, compare two microphones by placing them as close together as possible and reciting yours or my favourite poem into them. Yes, this will tell you something. The mics will sound similar or different to a lesser or greater degree, and you can pick a favourite. What this doesn't account for, however, is that you, or I, haven't optimised the positioning for each mic. I'll mention positioning a bit more as we go on, but I'm not going to do a shootout. Why we have to have these firearms analogies, I don't know. I'm not going to do a shootout, but what you'll hear is similar to a developing sound engineer gathering experience. What microphone works best for which sound source, in which environment, what mic position works best for the mic and the instrument or voice you're recording. What you're hearing right now is my Sennheiser MKH416, which is widely used in film and TV and is often regarded as a kind of magic mic. There's no such thing really, but it comes close. And here it is. I used to use this mic in this position, and with the magic of video editing technology, I would often conceal it. I don't see any positive value in having a microphone in shot, but it's really not such a big deal. Anyway, I like this position, but it tends to pick up unwanted mouth noises. I'm not going to demonstrate. So when I was given the opportunity to review the best mic arm in the world, in the long version that can reach overhead, I jumped at it. If you don't notice any change in mouth noise, that's probably because I run my voice tracks through the Mouth D-Click module in Isotope RX. Link in the description if you're interested. Whatever mouth clicks remain, I either edit them out or leave a few in, so that people don't think I'm an AI. You should, however, hear a bit more room ambience in the overhead position, like this or like this. I'd prefer less room, but the acoustic treatment I'd need is going to be a big job. And well, if I'm going to procrastinate, I'll procrastinate another day. So now the Beyerdynamic M201. And yes, this is the mic you're hearing. I've put it in the pretty much classic position for when picture is involved. You wouldn't want the mic to obscure my face, or would you? Anyway, what would happen if I choose to continue using this mic for my videos is that I'd probably refine the position slightly each time, working towards an optimum. Which wouldn't surprise me if it were right where it is now. The M201 is a dynamic mic, which means it works through a magnet and a coil of wire. The movement of the diaphragm couples to the coil and generates electricity. It couldn't be simpler, really. The other way uses electrostatics, which would be a capacitor microphone, which some old-timers call a condenser. There's a massive split here, dynamics on one side, capacitors on the other. It would commonly be thought that capacitor mics have a superior performance in terms of frequency response, or just be more detailed. Dynamics are often considered more robust. Capacitors sound great on instruments, apart from dynamics, working better on drums, electric guitar and some vocals. Capacitors are more sensitive, capable of lower noise levels, and more appropriate when the sound source is at a distance. This is all, of course, a gross simplification, but it's not an oversimplification, it's a starting point. Oh, and dynamics are usually cheaper. Good to know. Another big difference is that capacitor mics need to be powered. Dynamics don't. But since the M201 doesn't need phantom power, I'll leave that for now. The next thing we need to know, after dynamic, is the polar response of the M201, which is hypercardioid. I could tell you about it, but I can demonstrate. Right now, I'm facing the mic head on. I can turn it to the side, and judging from the chart, the level of the direct sound has gone down 7 or 8 decibels. In theory, a hypercardioid should be 12 dB down. But hey, the real world is far more textured and interesting, isn't it? Let's go all the way to the back, 180 degrees. Now, where a cardioid mic, in theory, would have no response at all to direct sound, the hypercardioid, well, this example is, again according to the chart, nearly 15 dB down. So in some cases, this rear pickup is a bit of a nuisance. In others, it can actually be useful, and I've used it once or twice to get out of a tight spot. Now, what's interesting, should I say even more interesting, happens at about 120 and 240 degrees. Again, going by the chart with my +4 reading glasses, is that there's no response to direct sound at all. Can you hear me? So, if you're recording a band of acoustic instruments and there's an instrument you don't want the M201 to pick up, you place it here. And as a recording engineer under studio conditions, you will have significant input into the placing of the performers. I have another chart. I love charts almost as much as I love USB-C. This seems to be, and I'm pretty sure of it since it has the serial number, a measurement of this actual microphone. Perfect. Perfect. Don't hit the mic. So what we see is a peak at somewhere around 15 kilohertz, which I can't hear anyway, various wobbles within just a few dB, and a roll-off below 100 hertz. What's important that, according to the chart, the measurement was taken at a distance of 1 meter. With any mic, placement closer than this to any sound source really does make different mics sound different, which is a good thing for the sound engineer who can then play with the various textures available. Indeed, if we look at the generic chart for this model, we see significant bass boost below 1 meter, which is expected from any directional microphone, not just this one. In another booklet supplied with the mic, we can see what applications Beyerdynamic recommend this mic for. I was a bit confused by the crosses, whether these were DIS recommendations, but I noticed that the M1, a measurement mic, has a cross for only that purpose. So cross means go for it. So the M201 is good for, well, you can pause the video and check for yourself. What it isn't good for, apparently, includes drum overheads and hi-hat, piano and bass amplifier. Well, cymbals probably no. You'd choose capacitor mics for those. But I used the M201 a lot back in the 1980s, and I wouldn't hesitate to use it for some of the forbidden purposes. In particular, cajon, if I've pronounced that right. I've only recorded it once, and I don't remember which mic, but I'm confident the M201 would give me a good sound. Also kick drum. A different mic would probably be my first choice, but if I'd used every other mic in my kit, well, would I call the session off because I only had the 201 left? As for singing, intimate, breathy vocals are, I feel, best recorded using a large diaphragm capacitor mic, maybe a tube model. But rock vocals, or vocals that need to blend with the instruments of the band, again, personal preference, I feel Dynamic is appropriate for the job. Just for fun, I'm going to put the M201 into my side position, and you can judge whether the sound is cleaner, better, or just different in some way. You can comment me whether you like to see the mic, or whether I should hide it. I'll throw up a page from Beyerdynamic's M series guide, so you can pause and peruse if you wish. 2 seconds. But should you buy it? Well, if you're a sound engineer of any kind, a recording engineer, or simply a home studio owner, there are certain types of mics that you need to consider yourself well equipped. An accurate small diaphragm capacitor mic, a large diaphragm capacitor mic, maybe a tube model, and of course a dynamic mic, such as the Beyerdynamic M201. And since you're obsessed with mics, as I said earlier, you'll want more of them. But if you're on a budget, maybe you can afford only one. And that one could indeed be the M201. Another case would be where you want to have several identical mics to record multiple sound sources that have a similar texture. Price obviously comes into this, as you could buy a more highly priced mic from the Beyerdynamic catalogue at the list price I see today of €849, times by however many mics you need. Or the M201 at €379, again the list price I see today. Affordability is often a priority. Suppose, though, that you're a hi-fi enthusiast. What I'd love is that you would buy a mic and an audio interface. You already have a laptop maybe, and free software like Audacity you can download online. Go out and make some recordings. See what it's like on the other side of the fence. Whether or not you find the grass greener or more tasty, it will definitely expand your perspectives on audio, and you'll absolutely get more enjoyment from your hi-fi system. And tell us your stories. Maybe you've done this already, and you have recording adventures to relate. Go on, comment readers will love to hear. Okay, that's enough about the M201 for now. I have another Beyerdynamic mic to review in a week or two. Of the tests that I can do myself in my little studio, what would you like to hear? Should I sing? Do I need to practice my instruments? See you soon.